Annie, it's great to be talking to you today. How are you?
I am doing great. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Now, this is a real special interview for me because finally, after all these years, I get to talk to another trumpet player. Now, now I'm gonna date myself here, but I had trumpet in band in high school. We had a cool music teacher. He taught us like Another One Bites the Dust, um, you know, uh, and Chariots of Fire, like stuff like that. But isn't it true? Don't the trumpet players get all the best parts?
Oh, all the best parts. I think it's the best instrument. I'm a little bit biased, but I started out trying to play the trombone, and one, I have really abnormally short little T-Rex arms, so I was like, this is never gonna work, but also way less cool than the trumpet. So yeah, it's an amazing instrument.
Oh, we're now, I found your story very interesting. Before we get into the survivor stuff, now, like me, you grew up as you did. I grew up with a single mom, so a lot to overcome in that sense. You made a success of yourself, own your own business, and um, you decided to pivot and jump into music. Tell us how that all happened, because that's a very interesting story.
Yeah, thanks for asking that actually. So I did, like you said, I grew up single parent household, food stamps, welfare, very poor. And so I knew there was going to be no money for college. So in my little fifth grade brain, I was like, I know, I'll be a musician. I'll teach myself to play because then I'll always be able to make money. Right? That was a flawed approach, but whatever. So I taught myself trumpet. I put myself through college on trumpet scholarship and then ended up sort of making this pivot because I realized, oh crap, how am I going to make money as a musician? Ended
Right.
up going back to school, getting my doctorate, starting a company called Run Lab. So we do running biomechanics analysis and all of that. Well, then fast forward and COVID hits, and I had to do this horrible, horrible thing. And I had to lay off 28 of my 30 employees because nobody cares about their running biomechanics when they think they might die from this unknown virus, right?
Yeah.
So I was dealing with a lot of head garbage when I had to do that. These were my friends. These are people that I loved dearly. So I bought a guitar and I had never sung in front of anybody before. And I said, I'm going to write one song and go sing it at an open mic or whatever and conquer this fear and get some of this, stuff out of my head. And
Right.
I went and did it and I just fell in love with it. And so I ended up, here we are 4 or 5 years later, and I have this touring rock band called Trashy Annie. And we did 21 states last year and 2 countries, and we're touring all over the place.
And
So
you released an album as well.
yes, I have an album out that came out in 2023 called Sticks and Stones. And then I've got a brand new one coming out on Halloween called Let It Kill You. Because I
Wow.
found this really cool quote and it says, find the thing you love and let it kill you. And I was like, that is the way you need to live life, man.
Now, getting back to Survivor, last night's vote really stunned you, didn't it? Did you have any idea that it was going to be you heading into tribal council?
No, not at all. I mean, you always, I think you always have to have, your spidey sense up in,
Right.
you always have to be concerned. You never can get comfortable. And I think that that is, you know, true of every time you go to tribal council, no matter how comfortable you feel.
Right.
But it was definitely a blind side. I thought that Alex and I were super good. I thought Alex was going to be able to convince Jake to, I didn't know if he would actually vote for Sophie. I kind of thought he might not.
Right.
But I thought the rest of us sort of saw the physical performance with Sophie in that challenge and realized that we needed to get, we needed to cut that weaker physical side out. And so, and she was on the challenge, or I mean on the puzzle too, and that was a big old fail, as you saw. And so I thought it was very obvious that we needed to probably offload her so that we could try to make the tribe a little bit stronger. But she's a great social player, and so she has a lot of, connections to all these people. I
Right.
misjudged how close she and Jeremiah are and how close she and Jake also are. So it was the right move, frankly, for Alex to vote me out because had he sided with me, it would have been these three with the
Right.
two of us. And I think he knew how close those relationships were. And like I say, I don't fault him because I
Right.
know when he had to do it. He had to do it for his own game, and it was the right move.
Yeah. I was to say, so do you look at him and say like, well, he's the big part? Did the vote pivot on him?
I kind of don't think it pivoted on him because even if he would have sided with me on Sophie, then you got the other three of them still
Right.
voting for me. So I think I was destined to go home that night, regardless of what Alex did. Had he played the idol for me, then we could have sent Sophie home, but then it would
Right.
have created a rift between Alex and Jake. And so then he would have lost Jake's trust.
Right.
And then we're back to square one again without being able to control anything from within. And because Jake is so strong physically, if we were to get to, say, the merge together, Jake's going to beat us all. So it was tricky. I don't think he was really a swing vote. I don't think there was a swing vote. I think
Right.
it was pretty much destined to go. Just not, I didn't know the extent of the relationships around me.
Did you have any idea that they were searching for that idol so diligently?
No, because we had kind of had this conversation and they didn't talk about it, but the way they edited me, they sort of showed me all the time by myself and they focused so much on like Annie's off by herself again. But there were a couple of things that weren't shown. And that was that one, when I was off by myself, I wasn't idol hunting at all because I knew very quickly I was never going to find an idol. Everything is brown. Everything looks like a leaf or a piece of paper. I was like, I'm out for searching for idols. I can't find it. If I happen upon one, great. But that was not the goal. I was out looking for stuff to build a shelter with. I spent my whole first day building a shelter for everybody because I just wanted to contribute in that way. Because I thought there's a lot of areas I'm small, I'm older than them. There's a lot of areas where they're not going to view me as an important part of the tribe. But if I can physically go out and work really hard, that's a really good contribution. Or at least it was in kind of old school survivor days. So when I was kind of by myself, a lot of it was that. And then the other thing that was happening was when we put the vote on Nicole for the first tribal council, the five of us decided, let's make Nicole feel comfy. And I said, make me the decoy. I said, just say you're putting the vote on me.
Right.
Let me go wander around by myself a little bit and sort of be on my own. So it looks like I'm not part of this group. And that way she won't sniff it out and play her shot in the dark. And so the whole thing worked like a charm. It worked great. But it did, in the context of what the fans are seeing, it does make me look like I'm an idiot and just wandering around by myself because everybody knows you don't do that. And I know you don't do that too. It was all part of a master plan that ultimately just did not work out in my favor.
Now you got to watch a lot back over the last episodes, and a lot of things maybe you didn't know what were going on. What surprised you the most of what's going on at camp?
I didn't realize that. So I will preface this by saying I came into this game knowing that the social piece was going to be hard for me. It was part of the reason I want to be on it because
Right.
everything I've done in life is solo lone wolf effort. Even the physical stuff I do at Ironmans and like 72-hour adventure races in the woods by yourself with a map and compass. Like this is all solo endeavors. Starting
Right.
a company and CEO and all that. So I can be bossy, but it's not from a bad place. It's from a place of love and wanting to help, and help
Right.
kind of make sure everybody's working together and steering the same direction. So what I saw in the episode was especially Jeremiah and Sophie just talking mad crap about me and so many eye rolls and so many like, oh, she's a Karen and all this. By the way, never been called a Karen before in my whole life. Like, that's a misread. But we're all good now, it's just the game. And so even though it's hard to watch it and it's hard to see people saying things about you that you didn't realize they said, because then you go back into the real world and you're like, oh my God, is this what everybody actually thinks about me in life? And then you have to step back from it and recognize that this is a game and people will do anything they can to get to tomorrow, and they should do all of that. And so I wasn't that hurt by the things that were said because I've processed it all and I really recognize it's just a game. And we're not talking about real world relationships. We're totally good in the real world.
Now, could it have been a generational thing? Because there is I've as we've seen in like other editions of Survivors, when you have the older folks like Gen X or older millennials, and they're trying to give advice, they sometimes there's that resistance that happens. Do you feel there was some of that?
I think you can't avoid that. Other
Right.
than from what I remember of Survivor, other than the Gen X versus Millennials season, they don't usually put more than just one token old person on a tribe. They just don't. And so it's a little hard because you've had all these 20 to 30-year-olds that have each other to kind of connect with and they
Right.
speak the same language and all that. I didn't have anybody that the next closest person to me was 11 years younger than me, and then after that, it's more like 20 years younger than me. So, yeah, I don't think you can avoid having some kind of generational disparity when you don't put people of the same generation together. So, maybe had Matt and Nate and me all been on the same tribe, maybe there's a connection that can be built there that just can't come with a 50-year-old and a 25-year-old because we have experienced life so differently. So, it's hard to say. I mean, I always say I'm 49 going on 9. So whether I'm the oldest or the youngest in the tribe, either way, I wasn't fitting in some way.
Well, at least we're all getting to learn what cinema and fire means. So, uh,
You to me too. So yeah.
now, obviously, we only get to see a portion of your journey. There's, editing and time and all that. Is there any moment or there any parts of your game that you wish fans would have seen?
I think what I mentioned a little earlier about the edits about why I was kind of by myself. I do wish that that had been part of the storyline because, people are just probably screaming at their TVs like, Annie, what are you doing? You cannot wander off by yourself. And so that part of the story, I was a little bit bummed that they didn't show me spending endless hours building this shelter. I mean, Nick's goodbye thing to me was thanks for the shelter. She was being a little snarky about stuff, but like, thanks for the shelter. But it genuinely was a labor of love for me because I was trying to do something cool for our camp. I was like, everybody's tired, it's hot. Like, I'm just going to keep working at this thing until we get it. Not going to be the greatest shelter in the world because we don't have a machete or anything else, but I'm going to do it. So I just kind of wish that some of that would have been a little bit more portrayed because I do feel like in some ways I got a little bit of the old lady edit. Oh,
Wow.
there she is dropping the piece of bamboo, and there she is wandering around laying in the shelter nut. Here she is drinking all of the coconut water, and that was not an accurate portrayal of what was going on at camp. So that kind of bummed me. But the other one was that on kind of a less emotionally bad vein, I wish they would have shown we had some really fun times in camp together. There's a great story that I told at one point about my first time trying to aqua dump because I was the first one of our tribe who tried to poop in the ocean, and I accidentally like pooped in our fishing area, and then my poop is like breaking up against me because the waves are coming in. Mortified. I'm like, my tribe mates are gonna come find my poop floating around. I gotta scoop it over the wall and like the whole thing. But Jeremiah and I shared some stories like that. He's like, Annie, it happened to me too. So it just there were some really fun times. Jeremiah had me on his shoulders at one point trying to grab a fruit. We found this really scary spider and just went tearing out of the woods like little girls. I mean, it was just there are some fun things that happen, and I wish fans could see that it's not all backstabbing and mean
Right.
talk. So I will say I had a really great experience all, top to bottom being on this show.
Well, Annie, it was wonderful talking to you. All the best in the future. And I got to point people to your renditions of Drift Away and being a Simon and Garfunkel fan. Me and Julio down by the schoolyard. Love your work there. So I'll point to it. I hope people check it out. But thanks again for spending time with us today and chatting.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely to meet you. Hopefully, we'll get you to a show at some point. We'll play
There
Meet
you go.
My
More than
fave.
one.
I love that one too.
Thank you, Annie. Take care.
Thank you.